Welcome back, just in time. It's time for relationship advice here on your Feel Good Breakfast Show. Now, whether you love it, whether you hate it, or fall somewhere in between, social media is here to stay. Now, while most use it to connect, and some use it as their livelihood, it's still a fairly new method of communication, of which we are still discovering all the positive as well as negative aspects.
Yep, it's a part of our lives. So today, for our relationship advice, for our discussion, we are asking, is your usage of social media having a positive or a negative effect? Clinical psychologist and good friend Asha Dulab is here to help us discuss this, and we are taking your questions and your comments, as inflammatory as they could be, about social media this morning. Can of worms open, because social media it's such a diversive kind of space for all of us. We all are connected to it, probably a little addicted to it, and it can have a massive effect. Why has it become such a pervading entity within our lives?
I think, Graham, gone are the days that we need to go and knock on the door to go and connect with someone. We can just slip into our pockets, pull out our phones, and there we are, we're connected. It's the first time ever that we are able to connect with millions of people at the click of a button, and we need to use this opportunity to really transform the world. It's easy, it's convenient, and it's the age of influence. It's the World Wide Web, including social media, is now the global brain that is a projection of all our individual ideas and brains and group consciousness.
Yeah,
sure.
I remember the first time I downloaded Facebook. This is 2008, and I remember using it to connect with people like overseas, family that I haven't seen in years. And I think that was the benefit of social media, was connecting with people. Let's talk about the benefits of using it, because it's not just all negative, it's not just all bad. There are some positives when it comes to it.
Absolutely. I think it really gives one that sense of belonging, a sense of acceptance, social acceptance. And of course, you know, we can be as inspired by our role models, connecting with people that in the past we'd never be able to
Have
reach.
a direct link to them.
Exactly. And of course, we grow our networks on many levels, being able to connect with family abroad, friends, business contacts. And it's a way that we can really, as I said earlier, make a difference in the world right now. It all just needs to come from the right state of mind and intention. And with that, we can do wonders.
There's also a sense of community. Sorry to break your word. There's also a sense of community, and also just the way that creatives get to play around with social media. We see TikTok, we see Instagram. People are now using this platform to showcase, you know, their skills and their creative side as well. So I think there is definitely a positive side to that as well.
Absolutely. I think the creativity has just embarked on a pandemic of creativity. Think about how much people have just evolved and tapped into different aspects of themselves, their identities. I mean, now people are developing their social identities, which may not always be their real self, which is maybe the other side of the coin of it, yeah.
You have a digital self now, and I think that's something that I think a lot about as a parent, where that will go. What will my child's digital footprint be by the time, and how much we're being judged on that? So you have almost you have an avatar representation of yourself online. As much as this can be inclusive and we can find our tribe in our social media space, you can also be ostracized and bullied and trolled and absolutely destroyed at the click of a button. It can happen so easily. What are some of the real downsides when it comes to social media and how it's being used?
Yeah, I think that we are trying to create an image out there to be liked. And of course, when we are harassed or trolled or judged, it can have that devastating effects on one's sense of adequacy, sense of self-esteem, self-concept, self-confidence. It can really begin to break one down tremendously. And then you feel like you're totally lost. It goes to the other extreme. You feel completely lonely and isolated. You can go into depression. Mental illness starts up with these heightened levels of anxiety. It's that fear of missing out. And of course, we also lead to this pathological comparison that social media brings up. We continuously comparing ourselves to other people on these social platforms in the desperate need to be liked with this new digital identity.
I just always imagine you walking down the street and you stop every person that you meet and you ask them what they think of your outfits, and then they tell you, I like it. No, I don't like it. No, it's nice or not. And often you're comparing yourself to something that is not real, because what we present online often is very much a facade. It's a crafted experience, and I think you've got to be able to distance yourself, just kind of form a distinction between real life and social media. How do we do that? It's a lot easier said than done. We're going to continue this conversation. We are talking about the impact of social media in your life. Is it having a positive or a negative influence, especially on your relationship?
It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Welcome back. You are still live with Expresso as we continue our relationship chat. Obviously, being a Monday, we do love to delve into the intricacies of a relationship. And today, we are talking about our usage of social media and whether that has a positive or a negative, or maybe a bit of both, effect on our lives. We're back with our clinical psychologist and friend, Asha Dulab, to unpack this topic. So please do weigh in if you've got any questions or comments. Maybe you have faced some cyberbullying. Maybe you have a particular emotional connection to social media, positive or negative. We'd love to hear from you. Let's focus on the negative. Because unfortunately, it seems to provide this opportunity for people to have their platform, to say their thing, have their opinions, but often people seem to operate with absolute impunity, like there are no rules. And there seems to be, and the language that can be used will be, tantamount to hate speech. We've seen it surface in football, in those sorts of instances. Why do we feel that we have this anonymity, this freedom to just say whatever we want on social media, knowing that people are actually listening?
I think it's very much an extension of who we are in our daily in-person, way of communicating and transacting. It just expands now to social media. But Graham, it goes beyond just the texting. It's the harassment through sexting, through sending pornography, to trolling, to spamming, sending inappropriate text messages via direct messaging. People feel this entitlement just to connect with anybody as they please, whether the person is professional, whether it's a friend. There's just this. I think it's because they feel that they can be anonymous. Some people create fake profiles. There's the less possibility of being punished, so that they just sort of, have freedom to do as they please.
And very often you are known and you are very visible, and the world can sit. We've seen how people have been fired for a tweet that they made 20 years ago. Like, it'll come back. Once it's been cached, it'll be there and it'll come back after you. On the receiving end, what kind of psychological effect does it have to be on the receiving end of this kind of digital attention?
I think that it can bring about a lot of distress, a lot of fear for the person that's receiving the kind of harassment or attack on them. Some people actually go into silence. They just don't want to be on social media. Sometimes some of them withdraw. They can feel isolated. And of course, I think that for some it can re-traumatize an individual. It can become quite a traumatic experience. And I think people just need to be so careful of how they engage and think carefully. Am I being responsible? Am I practicing restraint? Am I, refraining from communicating inappropriately? I think that we need to again just look at our level of empathy when we're engaging with people. Are we actually just having some level of empathy when we're just putting out what we are saying? And just take a moment to think, is this true? Can this be helpful? Am I inspiring an individual? Is it necessary to actually put out what I'm putting out? Am I being kind? The word think. It's just think before we just act.
It's almost like we turn off the cognitive part of our brain when we start engaging with social media. You alluded to it. And maybe this is an opportunity to delve into the very real dangers of sexual predators operating in that space, the opportunity to groom a section of the market that's operating within social media that is very unprotected or unsavvy, that is being forced to grow up very, very quickly. If you look at platforms like TikTok, definitely. What are some of the major risks when it comes to playing around in this social media space?
So the risk, of course, is that, especially for the younger teenagers, younger adolescents, they start engaging with these people with just the need to want to connect, or even that need to be liked or gain attention.
Yeah.
And they can find themselves in toxic relationships of manipulation, of complete harassment, and it can become quite serious. So one needs to just be very cautious of the way one engages. And really just taking responsibility, looking at one's privacy settings, being careful who you befriend on these social media platforms. Also, if there's an instance of harassment, immediately block, report the incident. There's ways of reporting these incidents on all of these platforms. And of course, most important, do not engage in anything that makes one feel uncomfortable. Not even trying to protect yourself and sort of engaging, please don't do this kind of. Rather just
block and leave it. Yeah.
Block and leave. That will be most important.
And I think parents, you need to create that conversation with your children to ensure that they feel comfortable coming to you and talking to you about that space, that they're not living digitally without you understanding where they are playing, because there are very real dangers. We've got one more chat coming your way. We are talking about social media, the pros and cons.
It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Welcome back. You're still live with Expresso. Just a few more moments to savor 18 minutes, in fact. So we're going to do that by continuing our Monday chat, a relationship chat. We are asking, is your usage of social media having a positive or a negative effect on your life? Probably a little bit of both. And we're back with clinical psychologist Asha Dulab to unpack more of this topic. So please weigh in. We'll try and touch on some of your Facebook comments as well. You've joined us rather late. You're kind of a healthy social media user.
I try to do it for the positive reasons, and I'm all about sharing the love. But I can't help but notice the conversation you had earlier. You were mentioning predators. You were mentioning some of the crazy things that you can expect online, which is very, very
Which you must expect, because it is happening. Don't think that it's not going to apply to you or your life, because if you're online, you're a target.
Absolutely.
It is. How though, do we protect ourselves from these people? I mean, yes, it's inevitable,
kids, yeah.
But how can we kind of just ensure that we still walk on the path of the good side of the light and sharing that love?
We can protect ourselves by first, treat people the way you want to be treated.
Yes.
Number one. And I think that when we are engaging in any social media platform, become aware of your privacy settings, because I think that sometimes these privacy settings are a bit hard to find, but take the time to really engage in how can you create a profile that is comfortable for you, that's private to what you feel comfortable with. And obviously, be careful who you befriend, because a lot of people will engage with strangers, and this is where these predators lie, in these strange people that you befriend, just in the need to, because of wanting to connect.
Yeah.
And of course, practicing caution and restraint when you're engaging. Don't share anything that you wouldn't want your grandmother to see. Be careful what you put out there. I would say also, share truth, speak your truth. Try not to share to please others or for the need to be liked, because that's where you can struggle.
How do we draw a line then? So your child wants to become the next TikTok sensation, so it's basically taking any follower that follows them. And there are kids out there with 1 million followers because they are posting risky, and I'm saying kids, not even teenagers, children who have hundreds of thousands of followers online. Do you tell your child, no, they're not allowed to do that? Surely that it is their opportunity to build a platform for themselves. You want them to be validated, to have that brand, but how do you as a parent marshal that space?
I think it's so important for parents to engage in dialogue and conversation with the kids on exactly this topic. I think that parents are so fearful to even go there and talk about the harassment and what's out there.
Live in denial,
we need to speak about it and educate. It's about psychoeducation. For our kids to understand when to engage, when to connect, and more importantly, when to disconnect. And of course, being free to be able to reach out to their parent if there's a circumstance of harassment or anything that they feel uncomfortable with. Because of course, there's a lot that we need to use social media for the greater good.
Should you be policing your child's social media?
That's a topic for another segment altogether.
Another can of worms there, G.
Lots of layers there, but some parents do.
Yeah, I think it's quite an interesting one. I mean, just listening to that, it's scary. It's intimidating knowing that the world's wanting this honesty, but with that comes vulnerability, and with that vulnerability comes the opportunity for you to be attacked. So I think I love the fact that you're making us aware of this. I think that is important. And like you said, G, the fact that you can't deny that it is a reality. And I think the fact that you're talking about that is kind of what makes me almost at ease. Like, I can expect this, and
you had some great advice.
But I don't have to subscribe to it.
You had some great advice for the person who was thinking of airing their opinion?
Don't.
Just don't do it. Just don't do it.
Stay in your safe space. Keep the community in a circle close. I like that.
Yeah, and if you couldn't say it to your granny, don't say it online, man. Absolutely. Asha, you're a legend. Thank you so much. Please be nice to her online. You can go and find her on Instagram. In fact, keep the conversation going. She is fantastic online. You can get some awesome private coaching there. Just don't slide into the DMs.